But when her phone lit up with the words, "I miss you, tonight again," everything he believed shattered.
She thought I would never find out. She thought she had built her lies carefully enough, hidden her tracks deeply enough, and played her role so perfectly that I would remain blind forever. Maybe she believed I was too trusting, too busy, just too foolish to notice, and for a long time she was right. I loved her too much to imagine she could ever become the one thing I feared the most. But betrayal has a sound, a smell, a weight. At first, it's almost nothing, just a small shift in her tone. A strange silence where laughter used to be, a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes anymore. You ignore it because love makes you generous. You make excuses, you tell yourself everything's fine, and you cling to the memories that feel safer than the truth. That was me. For months, maybe even years, I walked through my life believing she was still the woman who warmed my mornings and softened my nights. I believed our home was still a place where love lived. I believed our marriage wasn't cracking from the inside, but I was wrong. It all unraveled on a rainy Tuesday evening, the kind where the world just feels heavier than usual. I came home earlier than she expected. My shirt was damp, my shoes were caked with mud, and all I wanted was to hear her voice and feel her arms around me. But the house was too clean, too quiet, too staged, like someone had taken a perfect photograph of a home and frozen it in time. Her phone was on the table. It never used to be. She guarded that thing like it held her entire life inside it. She never left it anywhere, not in the bedroom, not in the kitchen, never on a table where someone else could see the screen light up. But that day it was lying right there, almost as if it were placed on purpose, as if it were waiting. I almost walked past it. I had never checked her phone before. It felt dishonorable, invasive, something beneath the love we had promised each other. But then the screen lit up and a message appeared. "I miss you, tonight again." My heart stopped completely. I felt the world tilt under my feet. The room didn't T-spin, it collapsed inward as if all the air had been sucked out of it. For a full minute, I didn't breathe, I didn't move, I didn't think. I just stared at those words, trying to convince myself they weren't real. The message wasn't from a friend. It wasn't from a coworker. The tone was too intimate, too familiar, too practiced. It was the kind of message you send to someone whose body you already know. My throat tightened. I looked at the name. It was saved under a single letter, just one. A J. I had never heard of any J in her life. Before I could even process what to do next, the front door opened. She walked in, rain dripping from her hair, her coat wrapped tightly around her. She looked tired, fake tired, I realized later. The kind of tired someone puts on when they want you to ask questions so they can feed you the answers they already rehearsed. But when she saw me standing there, looking at her phone, her face changed. Everything froze in her eyes, the surprise, the fear, the guilt. Her breath hitched. She didn't even try to hide it. Her voice trembled before she even said a single word. "You're home early." I didn't answer. She tried again, her voice shaking. "Why are you looking at my phone?" It wasn't anger in her tone. It was pure terror. She knew. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I didn't even mention the message. All I said was, "Who is Jay?" Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes darted everywhere, the floor, the walls, the window, anywhere except at me. Her fingers tightened around her coat like she was trying to hold herself together. Then she whispered, "It's not what you think, but lies always begin with those words." And the truth was already breaking free. I didn't sleep that night. She slept on the far edge of the bed, facing away from me, her breathing uneven, her body stiff as if she was afraid I might touch her. She didn't realize I wasn't afraid of losing her anymore. I was afraid of losing the person I thought she was. The next day I pretended everything was normal. I made breakfast. I kissed her forehead. I wished her a good day at work. She forced a smile, thinking maybe I believed her lie, thinking maybe the storm had passed. But storms don't just pass. They build. I followed her. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to know. I needed the truth more than I needed air. She didn't go to work. She went to a small cafe across town, sat at a corner table, and kept checking her phone every few seconds. She was nervous, fidgety, glancing toward the door like she was waiting for a ghost. And then he arrived, tall, confident, comfortable. He sat across from her like he had done it 100 times before. When he touched her hand, she didn't pull away. My breath burned inside my chest, but I didn't walk in. I didn't confront them. I didn't break anything. Instead, I watched the woman I loved more than myself smile at another man the way she used to smile at me. I watched my marriage disappear in real time, minute by minute, gesture by gesture, betrayal by betrayal. And that was the moment I realized something. She didn't just cheat. She'd built a life behind my back, a secret life. A life where I didn't exist. But she didn't know me as well as she thought. She thought I would never find out, but I did, and what I did afterward changed everything. I didn't go home immediately. I walked for hours, not caring where my feet carried me. The city felt different that day, colder, louder, indifferent. Cars passed, people brushed by, conversations drifted around me, but none of it reached me fully. I was inside my own storm, a storm she created with a single secret and a single message. I reached the riverside just as the sky began to fade into dusk. The water moved slowly, heavy with reflections of city lights. It should have calmed me. It didn't. My mind was replaying everything. Her smile, his touch, the way she leaned toward him as if drawn to warmth I no longer had. She had been giving him what used to be mine, not just her time, not just her laughter, but her soul. And that realization hurt more deeply than anything I imagined. Betrayal doesn't feel like a stab. It feels like drowning slowly, while the person who promised to save you watches from the shore. When I finally returned home, the house felt smaller. The walls felt too close. The silence felt like it knew something I didn't want to admit. She was in the kitchen, pretending to cook dinner she wasn't eating. Her hands trembled just slightly when she heard the door. She didn't turn around. She didn't greet me. She didn't ask where I had been. She knew. She knew I had seen them. She was just waiting for me to confirm it. I walked past her without speaking and sat at the table. The air between us tightened with a tension so sharp it could cut skin. She finally turned and looked at me, her eyes full of that desperate, pleading fear. "Where were you?" she asked softly. I didn't answer her question. I chose a different one. "How long?" She froze, her lips parted, then closed again. She blinked too quickly 3 times, just like she always did when she was lying or trying to gather excuses. Then she whispered, "It was a mistake." "How long?" "A few months," she said. Silence pressed on my chest like weight. Her shoulders collapsed slightly, as if saying it out loud made it real. As if admitting the timeline forced her to face something she had been hiding even from herself. "You were unhappy," she added. "You were distant," I laughed, an empty, hollow sound that didn't feel like mine. "So you found someone else because I was tired? Because I worked? Because I trusted you?" She started crying. She walked closer, step by trembling step, until she was standing right in front of me. She reached for my hand. I didn't move, neither toward her nor away. "This wasn't supposed to happen," she whispered. I don't know how it started. I was lonely. I felt invisible. And he listened. Did he listen when you took him to cafes?" I asked. "Did he listen when you told me you were working late?" She closed her eyes, tears falling silently. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. "Did he listen when you slept with him?" Her breath broke. She shook her head slightly, like she wanted to deny it, but knew she couldn't. "Yes," she whispered. "But I ended it. I swear." Yesterday was just closure. I stared at her, expressionless. She was lying again. She didn't know I had been there, watching them lean into each other in a way that said yesterday wasn't closure. It was continuation. "I love you," she said desperately. "I made a mistake, but I don't want to lose you. Please talk to me." But I didn't feel love then. I felt numb. Pain comes first. Anger second. Numbness is the third stage, the one where you feel nothing at all. I stood up, walked past her without touching her, without looking into her wet, begging eyes. I picked up my keys. "Where are you going?" she whispered. "Out. Are you coming back?" "Don't wait up." I closed the door behind me, letting the weight of her broken sobs echo in my wake. I didn't know where I was going, but anywhere felt better than staying inside the house we once called home. I drove without direction, without thought, until the night had fully swallowed the sky. I parked the car in a place I didn't recognize. A small street, an empty sidewalk, a quiet corner of a city that didn't care who I was or what I was losing. And it was there, in that lonely patch of darkness, that a realization struck me with chilling clarity. She wasn't sorry she betrayed me. She was sorry she got caught. And behind her tears, behind her trembling voice, behind her desperate confession, there was still something she hadn't told me. She was hiding more, much more, and I would find out every piece of it. She thought I was broken, but I was waking up, and she had no idea what that meant. The night air was colder than it should have been. Maybe it was the season, or maybe it was me hollowed out, emptied, walking around with a heartbeat that felt more like an echo than a pulse. I stayed in the car for a long time, staring at the steering wheel like it held answers I didn't know how to ask for. Her tears, her excuses, her trembling voice replayed in my mind. Every word she said felt rehearsed. Every apology felt shaped to protect herself, not heal us. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She was trying to survive being exposed. I finally stepped out of the car. The street was quiet, lined with old lamps whose light barely reached the pavement. I started walking, letting the night swallow the noise inside me. But no matter how far I went, I couldn't outrun the truth. She didn't cheat because she was lonely. She cheated because she wanted to. That was the part she couldn't say. That was the part I felt in my bones. I returned home just past midnight. The lights were off except the lamp beside the couch. She was sitting there, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped around herself. Her eyes were red and swollen. She stood when she saw me. "You came back?" she whispered. "Did you expect me not to?" She didn't answer. She walked closer, cautiously, as if approaching a wounded animal that might lash out. Her fingers hovered near mine but didn't touch. "I'm sorry," she whispered again. "I swear to you it's over." I didn't move. "Who ended it?" She blinked. "What?" "You said it's over, so tell me, did you end it?" "Or did he?" She hesitated. That hesitation was the truth. "He wanted to stop," she finally admitted, voice small. "He said it was getting too messy, that we were crossing lines." I felt something sharp twist inside me, not anger, not jealousy, something worse. "So he left you," I said quietly. Her lips trembled. She lowered her gaze like a child caught doing something forbidden. "It wasn't like that." But it was. She hadn't come back to me because she remembered who we were. She came back because she had nowhere else to go. That was the moment something inside me cracked, not loudly, not dramatically, but with a quiet finality that felt irreversible. I walked past her and went to the bedroom. I didn't slam the door. I didn't throw anything. I didn't raise my voice. The quiet was louder than any scream. I heard her footsteps behind me, hesitant, soft. She stopped at the doorway. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Not tonight." She stepped closer, ignoring the boundary I had drawn. "I know you hate me right now. I know I broke something in you. But please, don't give up on us." I didn't answer. She came to my side of the bed, knelt beside me, and rested her forehead on the mattress. Her voice came out in broken pieces. "I made the worst mistake of my life. I can't lose you. I won't survive it." Maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't. I didn't know anymore. Everything felt like a performance I didn't trust. I closed my eyes, not from exhaustion, but from the weight of her words. She stayed like that for nearly a minute before whispering, "Please say something. I need time." Silence. Then softly, "I'll do anything. Anything you want." I didn't respond. She eventually stood, wiped her tears, and walked out of the room slowly, as if each step took more strength than she had. I lay awake long after she left, staring at the dark ceiling, trying to find the man I was before her betrayal. He wasn't there, the version of me that trusted her. Gone, the version that believed her word was sacred. Gone, the version that thought love was enough. Gone, all that remained was someone who wanted answers. And answers require action. The next morning, while she slept with tear-stained cheeks and shallow breaths, I went through everything she thought she had hidden: her drawers, her purse, her coat pockets. I didn't touch her phone. Not yet. I found nothing. Which was its own kind of clue. Cheaters aren't clean. They leave traces: receipts, notes, small items, memories they forget to erase. But she had covered everything too perfectly. Too perfectly. That meant one thing. She wasn't just cheating, she was planning something. A message notification suddenly buzzed from the bedroom. Her phone. She woke with a soft gasp, grabbed it quickly, and hid the screen from me even though she thought I wasn't looking. My breath stilled. Because I saw two things in that split second. A notification, and the name. Not Jay, a different one. A new one. And that was when I realized there was more than one secret, and I wasn't even close to the real truth. The moment I saw that notification, something inside me sharpened. It wasn't anger anymore, it wasn't fear. It was clarity, the kind that comes when the last bit of illusion finally burns away. She thought she had erased every trace of her lies. She thought she had hidden everything so carefully that I would blame myself before I ever blamed her. She thought her tears would blind me long enough for her to stay in control, but she slipped. Just once, and that was all I needed. She sat on the edge of the bed with her back turned toward me, shoulders tense, fingers curled around her phone like she was gripping her last lifeline. I watched her lock the screen, then press the phone under the pillow, subtle, quiet, like a child hiding stolen candy. "What time did you wake up?" she asked softly, trying to sound normal. "A while ago," I said. She nodded, her voice cracking around an attempt to stay calm. "Did you sleep at all?" "No," I saw her flinch, not visibly, not dramatically, but enough. She wanted me tired, emotional, weak. People confess more when they're broken. She expected me to fall apart so she could stitch me back together on her terms. But I wasn't breaking, I was observing. She stood up and walked to the bathroom. The second the door clicked shut, I heard her turn the water on not to shower, but to mask her voice. She was on the phone, whispering, urgent, scared. I moved closer to the door quietly, careful not to let the floor creak. Her words came in broken fragments through the sound of running water. "He saw it." "No, not that one. Yes, I told him it's over. I don't know. I don't know if he believes me. Just give me time. I'll figure it out." My jaw tightened. She wasn't talking to Jay. This was someone new. Someone she was hiding even deeper. She finished quickly, too quickly, and when she came out, she plastered a weak smile on her face like nothing had happened. "Do you want breakfast?" "I'm not hungry. You should eat something," she tried again. But I just watched her, silently. Her smile faltered under my stare. "What?" she whispered. "Who was that on the phone?" What phone?" "I wasn't—" "Don't lie." Her breath hitched. Her eyes darted away. "It was no one, just work." "You said you weren't working today." She froze. Tiny details, small inconsistencies, fragile lies. She didn't know she was unraveling. I stepped closer, my voice low and even. "Who are you hiding now?" She shook her head furiously. "No one, I swear." "It's not what you think." Every lie she told sounded like a repeated line from a script she had memorized. "Give me your phone." She clutched it like it was her last breath. "Why? Don't you trust me?" I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. "Trust," I said slowly, "isn't something you ask for. It's something you don't break." She swallowed hard. "If I give it to you, you'll think I'm guilty. You already are." Something inside her shattered. She held the phone tighter, then whispered so quietly I almost didn't hear it. "I can't." That was all I needed. Not the phone, not the messages, not the proof. Her refusal told me everything. She wasn't hiding a secret, she was hiding multiple ones. I walked past her without another word and headed toward the door. She chased after me, panic rising in her voice. "Where are you going?" "To find the truth." Her fingers grabbed my arm, desperate, trembling. "Please, please don't do this. You don't know what you're getting into." I turned slowly. "What does that mean?" Her lip quivered. Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they didn't feel like guilt. They felt like fear, real fear. What the hell was she mixed up in? Who is he? I asked quietly. She didn't answer. "What does he have over you?" "Nothing." Silence. "What are you afraid of?" Still nothing. But her expression told me the truth she couldn't speak. This wasn't just about cheating. This wasn't just about an affair. She was trapped in something bigger, something darker. Something she couldn't talk about without breaking everything. Her breathing quickened. "Please." "Don't get involved?" "That's not your decision anymore." Her hand slipped off my arm, defeated, terrified. She whispered the last words like a confession, drowning in shame. You don't understand? They'll hurt you, I paused. They, not he, they, plural. My pulse slowed. Now I understood something she never intended to reveal. She wasn't cheating with just one man. She wasn't just lying to protect herself. She was protecting me. Or trying to, because whatever she was part of, whatever she had gotten involved with, whatever secret she was hiding, was dangerous. And now I wasn't just betrayed. I was in danger too. The word they hung in the air like smoke thick, poisonous, impossible to ignore. She looked at me with an expression I had never seen on her face before. Not guilt, not shame, not regret. Fear, raw, uncontrollable fear. I felt something cold move through my spine. Something heavier than jealousy, heavier than betrayal, heavier than heartbreak. What do you mean they? I asked quietly. Who are you talking about? She shook her head violently. I can't, please. Stop asking. You don't get to hide this from me anymore. You don't understand, she whispered, voice cracking. You think it's about cheating? You think it's about Jay, but it's so much worse than that. Tell me. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes darted toward the window as if she expected someone to be watching. For a moment she wasn't my wife, she was someone cornered, trapped, hunted. What did you get yourself into? I demanded. She stepped back, almost stumbling. It's not like that. Then what is it? I can't tell you. You have to. No, she said, her voice suddenly sharp, desperate. If you dig into this, if you start asking questions, they'll come after you. I stared at her. Who? She shook her head again, tears building. Stop, please. If you love me at all, stop. Love, that word felt bitter on my tongue now. Love, I said. You walked into someone else's arms? Someone else's bed? Don't say that word to me unless you're ready to tell me why. She flinched as if I had struck her. Her legs gave a slight tremble as she leaned on the wall for support. She didn't look like a liar anymore. She looked like a prisoner. A phone buzzed. Not hers? Mine? I pulled it from my pocket. No caller ID, but a message appeared. Stop digging. Go home. This isn't your business. My stomach dropped. My wife's face drained of color when she saw my expression. No, she whispered. No, they didn't. How did they? The message wasn't an accident. It wasn't random. Someone was watching us. Someone knew I had started asking questions. Someone was warning me. My hands clenched around the phone. Who sent this? She shook her head helplessly. Please. Please just ignore it. Pretend you never saw it. If you stay out of this, they won't touch you. Who are they? Damn it. I can't say, she whispered. I can't. I stepped closer to her, lowering my voice, forcing her to meet my eyes. Did you cheat because you wanted to? Her breath caught. No. Did you cheat because they made you? A tear slid down her cheek. She didn't answer, but she didn't have to. My entire world shifted. This wasn't a love affair. It wasn't lust. It wasn't a mistake. It was leverage, pressure, control. She had been forced into something, cornered into something, and I had been blind. I took her hand gently for the first time since everything collapsed. Tell me the truth, I said quietly. Let me help you. She looked at me with shattered eyes, and for the first time, I realized she wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing her life. And mine. You can't help me, she whispered. They watch everything. They know where I go. They know who I talk to. They even know when you follow me. My breath stilled. They know what you saw yesterday. A cold wave hit my chest. They know you watched us at the cafe. I stepped back slowly, stunned. How? They always know. I felt my heart pounding so hard it echoed in my ears. This was no longer a marriage problem. This was something else, something darker, something organized, something powerful. Why didn't you tell me? I whispered. She laughed, a broken, hopeless sound. Because they told me if I ever said a word, they'd ruin you, they'd hurt you. They'd make you disappear? My pulse tightened. Who are they? I asked again. She looked up at me with eyes full of misery and a truth she was terrified to speak, and then she finally said it. They're not just men. They're not just some affair. It's a group, a network, and once you're in it, you don't get out. My mouth went dry. And I, she whispered, voice shaking violently, got in far deeper than you will ever understand. I stared at her. The woman I thought had betrayed me was actually trapped in something monstrous, and now, so was I for a few seconds. The room felt too small to hold the truth she had just spoken. A network. A word that didn't belong in an ordinary marriage. A word that carried weight, danger, control. She stood there trembling, like speaking the word itself might summon someone to the door. What kind of network? I asked quietly. She shook her head. Please, don't make me say it. You already said too much. I know, she whispered, and they'll know it too. I felt my pulse slow, not speed up. Fear didn't hit me immediately. Instead, a strange calm settled over me. Maybe it was shock, maybe it was instinct. But something inside me clicked into place, something steady, cold, focused. You're going to tell me everything, I said. She backed away. I can't not hear. Not now. They monitor our phones. They monitor movement. They know if I leave the house without a reason. They even know when you call in sick. How do you know that? Because they told me, she said, voice trembling. They told me every rule, every restriction, every punishment. Punishment. That word stung deeper than betrayal ever had. What did they make you do? I asked. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't want any of this. I swear I made one mistake, one, and they saw it. They used it. What mistake? She didn't answer. Tell me. It doesn't matter anymore, she whispered. They own me now. And if you push this, if you keep asking, they'll own you too. I stepped closer. She didn't back away this time. She just stood there, shaking, like she was holding on to the last thin thread of her sanity. They don't own me, I said. You think you're stronger than them? She asked softly. You're not. No one is. They don't fight fair. They don't threaten. They erase. A chill crawled down my spine. Erase. Not scare. Not hurt. Erase. Completely. My phone buzzed again. I didn't even check it. I knew what it was. A warning, a reminder, a threat. She looked at the vibrating phone the way someone looks at a ticking bomb. Don't read it, she whispered. I already know what it says. Her lips parted, but she couldn't speak. She just nodded faintly. I picked up the phone anyway. Another message. Last warning. Stay out of this. I looked up at her. They're watching you, she whispered, voice breaking. They know you're not listening. Who are they? I asked one last time. She closed her eyes. A tear slid down her cheek. If they find out I told you anything, if they even suspect it, you won't make it to tomorrow? Her voice cracked on the last word. Tomorrow? She wasn't being dramatic. She wasn't exaggerating. She was telling me exactly how far this went. And then she whispered something that froze me completely. You need to leave? What? You need to get out of the house now, before they realize you're not backing off. She grabbed my hands, her nails digging into my skin. Please, please, if you ever cared about me, if you ever loved me, listen to me this once. I'm not leaving you here alone. It's safer if I'm alone, she whispered. I'm the one they're watching. If you stay, they'll see you as part of this. And once they see you that way, they don't let go. She pushed me toward the door, panic rising with every second. Go, she begged. Just go, I'll explain everything later. Just let me protect you for one day. I didn't move. I stared at the woman I thought had betrayed me. The woman I thought had destroyed our marriage. The woman I thought I hated. And all I saw now was someone fighting for my life. I placed my hands on her shoulders. I'm not leaving you. You don't understand, she whispered, gripping my shirt with shaking fists. If you stay, they'll hurt you. If you leave, they might spare you. Something in her voice cracked wide open, a mixture of desperation and helpless love I didn't expect. I can't lose you, she said, barely audible. You already lost me, I whispered back. She flinched. Pain flickered across her face like lightning. Then the front door made a sound. A soft one, a click, not a knock, not a slam. Not footsteps, a click. The sound of someone testing if it was locked. Her eyes widened with pure terror. Oh God, they're here. She grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. And then she whispered the last thing I ever expected to hear. Don't speak. Don't move. Don't breathe. The doorknob turned. Once, slowly, deliberately, someone was on the other side. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. Someone who wasn't knocking, someone who wasn't hiding anymore. They had come for us. The days that followed felt like walking through a world made of smoke-shifting, unclear, unpredictable. I would catch myself staring at the doorway, expecting her to walk through it with that same guilty hesitation, the trembling hands, the eyes that couldn't hold mine for more than a second. She stayed quieter now, as if silence could erase what she had done, as if pretending could rebuild what she had burned. But I wasn't the same man anymore. Something inside me had snapped, not violently, not loudly, but with the quiet finality of a lock turning. She sensed it. Every time I entered a room, she grew stiff, alert, watching me like someone waiting for a verdict. But I didn't give her one. Not yet. I simply lived beside her like a shadow present, but unreachable. At night, she would lie in bed pretending to sleep, but her breathing told me otherwise. She was awake, afraid of the silence between us, afraid of what I might say, or worse, what I might decide without saying anything at all. She reached for my hand once, hesitantly, the way someone reaches for a memory they fear has already faded. I didn't pull away, but I didn't hold her back either. And I think that hurt her more than anything else. I started noticing things I used to ignore: her nervous glances at her phone, the way she rushed to the bedroom when she heard a notification, the sudden disappearances of her smile whenever she thought I wasn't looking. I wanted to believe she had cut him off. I wanted to believe she regretted everything. But regret isn't proof, and silence isn't honesty. One evening, after she thought I had gone to sleep, I heard her slip out of bed, soft steps. The quiet click of the door. I waited 5 seconds, then sat up. My heart didn't race. I wasn't panicking. I was too calm, too controlled. I stood, grabbed the jacket from the chair, and followed. The night was cold, the air carrying that metallic bite that reminded me of winters when things were easier, when trust wasn't something that needed to be guarded. She walked fast, arms wrapped around herself, head low, as if trying not to be seen. She turned the corner and moved toward the old park near the end of the street, the one with the lampposts that flickered as if they were too tired to shine. And then I saw him. He was standing under the tallest tree, hands in his pockets, waiting. She slowed when she reached him, hesitating. For a moment, I dared to hope she would turn back, that she had come only to tell him it was over. But hope is a dangerous thing. He stepped closer. She didn't step away. I felt something cold settle in my chest, not anger, not jealousy, something heavier, something final. She spoke first, her voice low, trembling. I couldn't hear the words, but I recognized the tone, the same tone she used when she tried convincing herself of a lie. He nodded, moved even closer, placed a hand on her arm. She didn't pull away, and that was enough. I turned around and walked back home. I didn't need to hear anything. I didn't need to see the rest. Her choices had spoken louder than any confession ever could. By the time she returned over an hour later, wiping her eyes as if tears could rewrite the truth, I was sitting at the table, calm, waiting. She froze when she saw me awake. Her breath caught in her throat. For the first time, she looked at me as if she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. She opened her mouth to speak, but I raised a hand, not angrily, not accusingly, just to stop her from saying something I already knew wasn't true. She closed her mouth, nodded slowly, and then her knees gave out. She sank to the floor, covering her face with shaking hands, a quiet, broken sound escaping her half sob, half apology. I did not move toward her. Something inside me had changed too deeply for that. Her tears couldn't rebuild trust any more than rain could rebuild ashes. She cried until her voice cracked, until her breath came in shivers, until the floor beneath her glistened with everything she wished she could undo. When she finally looked up at me, her eyes were swollen, desperate, pleading, but I didn't speak. Words were pointless now. Words had died the moment she stood beneath that tree with another man's hand on her arm. She whispered my name once, twice, a third time, each one softer, more fragile, as if hoping repetition would make me forgive her. But forgiveness is not a reflex, it is a choice. And I was no longer certain it was one I could make. She crawled closer, her hands shaking as she reached for mine. I let her touch it. I let her hold it, but I didn't squeeze back. And that made her break all over again. The silence that followed stretched between us like an impossible distance, and I knew this was only the beginning. If she thought I would never find out, she had been wrong. And now she finally understood what that meant. I stood up slowly, and the way her face fell told me she understood something else too. This time I wasn't the one who was losing something. She was. She watched me stand, her breath catching as if she feared the movement itself meant goodbye. Maybe it did. She didn't know any more, not what I was thinking, not what I would choose, not what parts of me she had already destroyed. The uncertainty terrified her, and for the first time since the night everything shattered, I saw real fear in her eyes. Not fear of being caught. Not fear of consequences. Fear of losing me. I walked past her slowly, my steps quiet on the floor. Every second felt heavier than the last. She reached out, her fingers brushing the hem of my shirt, barely touching, as if she wasn't sure she had the right to hold on to me anymore. She didn't, but I didn't say that, I didn't need to. Her expression told me she already knew. I poured myself a glass of water not because I was thirsty, but because it gave me something to do with my hands. She stayed on the floor, looking small, fragile, broken in a way that no apology could fix. Her voice trembled when she finally spoke. "Please, talk to me." 3 words, tiny, desperate, heavy. I didn't turn around. About what? My voice wasn't sharp. It wasn't angry. It was calm, too calm. The kind of calm that comes after a storm when the wreckage is all that's left to look at. She swallowed hard. "About us," she whispered. "There is no us," I said. "Not right now?" The words hit her like a physical blow. Her hand went to her chest, as if she needed to hold her heart together before it shattered again. She stood slowly, unsteadily, wiping her face though the tears kept falling. She moved toward me cautiously, as if approaching an animal that might bolt. "Please, don't shut me out," her voice cracked. "I love you." I finally looked at her then, really looked at her. And maybe that was the moment she realized something she had been afraid to admit. I didn't look at her the way I used to. Love used to soften my eyes when I saw her. Now all I felt was distance. A distance she had created, step by step, lie by lie, moment by moment beneath a tree with another man's hand on her skin. "You love me?" I asked. "Is that what you call this?" Her lips trembled. "I've made a mistake, a horrible one. But I never stopped loving you." A bitter laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Not loud, not mocking, just tired. "If that's love," I said softly, "I don't want it." She broke again. Her legs buckled and she fell into the chair behind her, burying her face in her hands. Her body shook with silent sobs, the kind that tore from somewhere deep inside, the kind that couldn't be faked. She cried like she finally understood the damage she had done. But tears don't erase betrayal. I walked toward the hallway. She lifted her head quickly, wiping her face with trembling fingers. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice small, terrified. "To sleep," I said. "In the guest room?" "Yes." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She stood and grabbed the doorway to steady herself, staring at me with a mixture of disbelief and regret, so heavy it nearly collapsed her. And then she whispered the question she feared most. "Are you leaving me?" I paused. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I wasn't ready to give it voice. "I don't know yet," I said. The truth hung between us like a blade. She inhaled sharply, as if someone had cut the air from her chest. She took a step toward me, but I stepped back, not dramatically, not with anger, but with finality. The message was clear. She stopped moving. "We can fix this," she whispered, but the words sounded weak even to her own ears. "You can't fix something you shattered on purpose," I said. She opened her mouth, closed it again, and then whispered, "I was lonely." I froze. Lonely, not sorry. Not remorseful, lonely. I turned slowly, staring at her. Her eyes widened as she realized what she had said, but it was too late. "That's your justification?" I asked quietly. No, I didn't mean—" She stepped forward, panicking. I felt unseen, unheard. And he made me feel wanted?" I finished for her. Her silence was an admission. I shook my head slowly. "And what did I make you feel?" She broke again. Her voice was barely a whisper. Safe, safe, safe," I repeated bitterly. So you destroyed the one place you were safe. Her tears came harder. I'm sorry, she said over and over, her voice cracking, her body folding in on itself like she was trying to disappear. I'm so sorry. Please don't give up on me, please. I didn't respond. I simply walked to the guest room and closed the door. She didn't follow. She knew she had lost the right. The bed felt unfamiliar, the air colder, the walls too quiet. I lay down, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of her betrayal pressing on my chest like a stone. And for the first time since discovering the truth, I realized something. It wasn't anger that kept me awake. It was grief. The kind that comes from losing someone who is still alive. Somewhere in the house, she cried until her voice gave out. And as the night stretched into the early morning hours, neither of us slept. She thought I would never find out. But I did. And now the consequences were only beginning. The morning light crept slowly into the house, brushing the walls with a pale, washed-out glow that made everything look colder than it was. I hadn't slept, not even for a moment. My eyes burned, my mind heavy with the weight of thoughts that refused to settle into anything clear. The silence outside the door felt different now, fragile, exhausted, uncertain. When I finally opened the guest room door, the hallway was still. The air carried a faint trace of her perfume, soft, familiar, painfully nostalgic. I followed it to the living room, expecting to find her asleep on the couch or sitting with her knees pulled to her chest, waiting for me to appear. But she wasn't there. The room looked untouched, almost staged, as if someone had taken care to leave no sign of their presence behind. A knot formed in my stomach. I stepped further in, scanning the space. And then I saw her. She was in the kitchen, sitting at the small table with her head resting on her folded arms. Her hair was messy, tangled from a night of crying and no rest. A mug of untouched tea sat in front of her, its surface cold. She didn't notice I was there, not at first. She was breathing slowly, heavily, like her body had finally forced itself into a shallow, exhausted sleep. For a moment, I simply watched her. This was the woman I had once trusted with every part of myself, the woman I built dreams with, shared hopes with, imagined a lifetime with. And now she looked like a stranger wearing her face. I took a quiet breath, maybe too quiet, but she must have sensed movement. Her eyelids fluttered and she lifted her head slowly. When she saw me, her expression shifted from exhaustion to heartbreak. Her voice came out rough, almost painful. You didn't sleep. No, I replied. Her throat tightened. I kept hoping you would come back to bed. I didn't answer. And she didn't push for one. She stood slowly, as if her body ached, and wrapped her arms around herself. I knew the gesture. It was the one she used when she felt unworthy of comfort, when she didn't know where she stood, when she feared she had already lost something she couldn't bear to lose. I made breakfast, she whispered, gesturing weakly toward the stove. I wasn't sure what you'd want, so I'm not hungry, I said. The way her face fell made something inside me shift uncomfortably, but I didn't take the words back. I couldn't, not after everything. She nodded, swallowing hard, and looked down. Can we talk? She asked quietly. About what? About us? She said again, though her voice trembled as if the words were blades. Please. I sighed and sat down at the table. She stood for a long moment, staring at the chair opposite me like she wasn't sure she deserved to sit there. Finally, she did, placing her hands on the table as though she needed the wood to steady her. For a while, neither of us spoke. It was she who broke the silence first. I ended it with him, she said suddenly. Last night. That's why I went to meet him. I swear to you nothing happened. I went to tell him that it was over. I didn't react, not with relief. Not with anger, nothing. Why didn't you tell me you were going? I asked quietly. She hesitated. I was ashamed. You were afraid I'd stop you, I said. Tears filled her eyes again, not fast, but slowly, like she was trying to hold them back and failing. I wanted to fix it myself. I didn't want you to think I needed him to let go of him. The words came out broken, shaking under the weight of her own guilt. I leaned back slightly. You met him at night, I said. The same way you met him before. That was different, she whispered. Before I was lying to you last night. I went to protect you. I closed my eyes briefly. Protect me. People lie to themselves more beautifully than they lie to anyone else. When I opened my eyes again, she was watching me like her entire world depended on the next breath I took. Why him? I asked. Her lips parted, and she exhaled shakily. I don't know, she whispered. It started without meaning to. He listened. He made me feel seen, but I swear I didn't love him. I never loved him. That didn't stop you. She flinched like I'd struck her. A heavy silence settled between us. Finally, she whispered, Do you hate me? I looked at her, really looked, and realized I didn't. Hate would have been easier, cleaner, but what I felt wasn't hate. It was loss, and that hurt far more. No, I said softly. I don't hate you. She inhaled deeply, her eyes filling with fragile hope. But I don't trust you, I added. The hope shattered instantly. She pressed a trembling hand to her face, trying to stop the tears that slipped anyway. I'll earn it back, she cried quietly. I'll do anything. I'll tell you everything. I'll change whatever you need. Just don't walk away from us. I stood slowly. She rose too, panic flickering in her eyes. I didn't move toward her. But I didn't walk away either. I need time, I said. She swallowed. How much time? I don't know. Her voice cracked. What do you want me to do? Stay, I said. And don't lie to me again, she nodded quickly, relief and devastation crashing together in her expression. I won't. I swear I won't. I walked past her, feeling her gaze on my back like a weight. When I reached the doorway, she whispered, I'll wait. No matter how long it takes, I didn't look back. I wasn't ready to, but I also didn't leave the house. And she took that as the first thread of hope she'd been desperate for. She thought I would never find out, but I did. And now she was trying, terrified, broken, desperate, not to lose the man she had betrayed. The hours that followed were slow, heavy, filled with a strange kind of tension that clung to the walls like humidity. She moved around the house quietly, almost cautiously, as if every sound she made might push me further away. I noticed the way she avoided her phone, now leaving it on the counter, face up, untouched, as if she needed me to see she had nothing to hide. It didn't comfort me. But I noticed. I spent most of the day outside fixing small things, moving aimlessly from task to task, anything to give my mind something to do besides replay memories I no longer trusted. The garden, the old toolbox, the shed door she always asked me to fix. I touched everything like I was trying to anchor myself to a life that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Every now and then I'd see her through the window, watching me, waiting, hoping. Her expression was always the same, fragile, pleading, shattered. She didn't try to come outside. She didn't call my name. She simply watched, silently begging me not to drift away. By late afternoon, the heat softened and a cool breeze swept through the yard. I was sitting on the back steps, staring at nothing, when I heard the faint creak of the door behind me. She stepped out slowly, carrying a glass of water. I thought you might need this, she said softly. I didn't take it at first. Not because I didn't want it, but because I didn't want her to think anything had changed overnight. After a moment, I reached out and accepted it. Her shoulders dropped with the slightest exhale relief, tiny but real. She sat down a few feet away from me, leaving space as if afraid to invade mine. For a long while, we didn't speak. The sky turned orange, then pink, then deep blue. It would have been peaceful if the silence between us wasn't so full of everything unspoken. Finally, she broke it. Do you want me to leave? She asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer immediately. Her breath hitched as she waited for my response. No, I said at last. I didn't ask you to leave. She nodded, but her eyes lowered as if she knew that not being asked to leave wasn't the same as being wanted. After a moment, she whispered, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I hurt you in ways I can't undo. But I want to spend the rest of my life making this right. If you let me. I stared at the grass between my feet, the weight of her words sinking slowly. I don't know what right looks like anymore, I admitted. Her breath trembled. Then let me show you. Let me try. I didn't respond, I didn't reject it, but I didn't accept it either. The uncertainty in her eyes deepened. After another pause, she said softly, You can ask me anything. Anything you want to know about. What happened? She swallowed. I won't lie. I don't want details, I said quietly. She nodded quickly. Okay, whatever you need. I need honesty, I added. Not versions, not excuses. She closed her eyes, pained. You'll have it. The wind shifted. A few leaves drifted across the yard. After a while, she spoke again. When you looked at me last night, it felt like you didn't know who I was anymore. I don't, I said honestly. Tears filled her eyes instantly, though she tried to hide them by looking away. Her voice shook when she said, I'm still me. I turned my head slightly. Then why did you do it? Her breath hitched. Because I was weak, she whispered. And stupid. And I didn't realize what I was poisoning until it was too late. I didn't move, but something in her expression collapsed, like the words she'd been holding back finally spilled into the open. You trusted me with your heart, she continued, her voice trembling. And I broke it because I didn't know how valuable it was until I lost the right to hold it. Her hands tightened in her lap. I was lonely, but loneliness wasn't your fault. It was mine. I didn't tell you what I needed. I didn't try. I just drifted. And I let someone fill a space that wasn't theirs to touch. A tear slid down her cheek. I betrayed you because I forgot who we were, she whispered. And losing you made me remember everything. I exhaled slowly, the pain inside my chest tightening and loosening at the same time. She wiped her face clumsily. I know you don't trust me. I know you might never trust me again. But please, don't stop giving me chances to earn pieces of it back. The sun dipped lower, shadows stretching long across the yard. Why didn't you tell me when it started? I asked. She froze. I was afraid, she whispered, afraid of hurting you. Afraid of facing what I'd done. Afraid you'd leave. You didn't stop to think betrayal would hurt worse? I was selfish, she said, her voice breaking. And you paid the price. Another long silence spread between us. Not empty, but heavy with truth and pain. As the last light faded, she whispered, What do you want from me right now? I thought for a long moment. Finally, I said, I want you to be here, honestly, fully, no more hiding. I can do that, she whispered. And I want time. As long as you need, she looked at me then with hope, fear, love, regret, all tangled together in her eyes. I didn't touch her, but I didn't pull away. And for her, that small mercy meant everything. Night settled around us. The cicadas buzzed, the stars blinked awake, and we sat there, two people broken in different ways, trying to figure out if the pieces could still fit. She thought I would never find out, but I did. And now she was trying to rebuild something she had nearly destroyed completely. The next few days passed in a strange, fragile routine. She moved around the house cautiously, almost timidly, as if every step, every sound, every glance could push me further away. I didn't speak much and she didn't push. It was a tense truce, a delicate understanding that neither of us fully trusted yet. But it was enough for now. She started leaving little notes, small, handwritten scraps of paper tucked on the table or the kitchen counter. I'm sorry, I'll be honest. I love you. Each one a quiet plea for a chance, a sign she was trying to rebuild the bridge she had burned. I read them silently, folded them, and set them aside. I didn't respond, not yet. One evening I found her sitting on the back steps again, staring at the sky. I didn't announce myself. I just came up behind her and sat down, leaving a space between us. For a long moment we didn't speak. The air was thick with unspoken truths, with pain, with fragile hope. Finally she whispered, Do you hate me? I didn't answer immediately. She turned slightly toward me, the faint glow of the setting sun lighting her face, highlighting the raw vulnerability etched into every line. I need to know, she said softly. I don't hate you, I admitted quietly. But I don't trust you yet. Her shoulders slumped. She had hoped for something more immediate, instant forgiveness, but the moment passed quietly, without drama. She didn't cry, didn't plead. She simply nodded, as if acknowledging the truth she had known all along. Trust is not given, it's earned. I'll do whatever it takes, she said, voice breaking. I'll show you. I'll be honest in every word, every action. I'll prove it. I stayed silent. Actions, not words, were what mattered now. She hesitated, then asked, "Can we start over? Not like nothing happened, but can we try to rebuild?" I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I saw the woman I had loved before everything went wrong, that made me laugh, who cared for me, who built a world with me. But I also saw the woman who had betrayed me, whose choices had shattered that world. "I don't know if we can," I said honestly, "but I'm willing to try." Her face lit up with fragile hope, but she didn't speak. She didn't need to. The small space of agreement between us, the unspoken promise to try, was enough. The days slowly fell into a rhythm of careful gestures, quiet apologies, and tentative conversations. She no longer avoided my eyes. She stopped hiding her phone. She asked questions about my day, my thoughts, my feelings, genuinely without defensiveness. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the distance between us began to shrink, not gone, not fully healed, but shrinking. One night she brought a blanket outside, and we sat on the back steps again, watching the stars blink awake in the darkening sky. She leaned slightly toward me, not touching, not pressing, but close enough that I could feel her presence. "I missed this," she whispered. "I missed us." I didn't respond immediately. The wind stirred softly, carrying the faint scent of her hair, of the garden, of the summer night. Memories of the past, the love, the laughter, the mistakes wove themselves through the quiet air. "I know I broke you," she said, her voice trembling. "And I can't take it back, I can't undo it, but I want to try. Please, let me try." I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the weight of everything settle. "We'll try," I said finally. "But this will take time, every day, every moment. No shortcuts." She nodded, tears glistening in the starlight, and for the first time in what felt like months, a real, fragile smile appeared on her face. And in that quiet night, with the stars above and the cool breeze around us, I realized something she had thought I would never find out. But I did. And now, having found out, I could see what mattered most: not revenge, not anger, not even betrayal, but the choice we would both make next, to rebuild, to forgive, to try again, piece by fragile piece. It would not be easy, it would not be quick. But it was possible. And for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could survive this together. The days that followed became a test of patience, of will, and of quiet endurance. Each morning, she would rise before me, making tea or coffee without asking if I wanted it, simply placing it on the table, a silent offering. I noticed, I appreciated. I didn't say anything. Words had lost their power. Actions mattered more now. She didn't try to force conversation anymore. Instead, she sat nearby as I read, worked, or did small tasks around the house. Every now and then, her gaze would meet mine, not searching, not pleading, just quietly present. That alone was a small mercy, a reminder that she was willing to stay, to be patient, to rebuild the pieces she had broken. I caught her watching me often. Not in suspicion, not in fear, not in desire, but in quiet reverence. And I found myself watching her too, noticing the smallest changes, the tension in her shoulders easing, the way she paused before speaking to choose words carefully, the faint light of hope returning to her eyes. It was slow, torturous, beautiful in its fragility. One evening, she brought a notebook to me, hesitated, then placed it on the table. I want you to see everything I feel," she said softly. "Everything I'm thinking, not excuses. Not lies, just me." I looked down at it. The leather cover was worn, edges frayed, and inside the pages were filled with her handwriting, messy, uneven, raw. I opened it and read a few lines. Each one spoke of regret, of longing, of shame, of love, desperately trying to claw its way back. She didn't watch me read. She sat quietly, hands folded in her lap, waiting for judgment. When I finally looked up, she asked softly, "Is it enough?" I shook my head. "It's a start." Her shoulders slumped. She bit her lip, trying not to cry. "I'll do more," she whispered. "I'll do whatever it takes. I'll spend every day proving that I can be trusted again." I said nothing. Words could not capture the complexity of what I felt: anger, hurt, desire to forgive, fear of being hurt again. Love that still lingered, stubborn and alive despite everything. Night after night we sat together, sometimes talking, sometimes silent, sometimes reading, sometimes just existing in the same space. And slowly, imperceptibly, the tension between us began to ease. Then one night a storm rolled in. Rain pounded against the windows, thunder rolled across the sky, and lightning lit the room in sudden, stark flashes. I watched her from across the room as she held a blanket around herself, staring out at the storm. Her hair was damp from the humidity, her face pale, her lips pressed tightly together. She turned toward me, eyes wide. "I'm afraid," she whispered. "Afraid that I'll mess this up again. That I'll lose you for good this time." I stood and crossed the room slowly. "You already lost me once," I said softly, "but losing you twice. That's not something I want to do." Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to lose you," she said, voice breaking. "I'll do anything. I'll be anything. If you let me stay." I knelt in front of her, close enough to see the tremor in her hands, the quiver in her lips, the way her body shivered despite the blanket. "You can't promise me that nothing will ever go wrong again," I said quietly. "But I can promise I'll stay if you're honest, every day, no matter how hard it is." She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I can do that," she whispered. For the first time in months, I reached out and held her hand, not to forgive, not to condone, but simply to anchor ourselves in this fragile, uncertain present. She squeezed back, relief washing over her like a tidal wave. The storm raged outside, fierce and relentless, but inside there was a fragile calm. Two people, broken in different ways, clinging to the possibility of something better. She thought I would never find out, but I did. And now, having found out, having survived the betrayal, having faced the raw truth of our past, we were both learning how to live in the present, step by step, moment by moment, one fragile act of honesty at a time. And for the first time, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, love could survive even the deepest wound. The following weeks unfolded like walking on glass, careful, tentative, every step measured, every gesture weighed. She did everything quietly, without fuss, without grand gestures, without desperate pleas. Instead, she moved through the house with a cautious grace, as if learning a new life alongside me. And I watched her, not with suspicion, not with resentment, but with a wary hope I didn't yet allow myself to name. Some nights she would sit beside me on the couch, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her shoulder, but far enough that I had the space to breathe. We spoke in low, careful tones about trivial things at first: books, music, the weather, small conversations meant to test the waters. Then slowly, tentatively, we began to speak about us. About the past, about mistakes, about the spaces where trust had been broken. And each time she spoke honestly, without excuses, without defensiveness, I felt the tension in my chest ease, just a little. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of orange and crimson, she turned to me with a quiet urgency. "I want to go somewhere," she said softly. "Where?" I asked. "Anywhere but here," she whispered. I need to feel like we're starting over. Even for a few hours." I studied her for a long moment, seeing the vulnerability in her eyes, the fear, the hope, the longing, and then nodded. "Fine," I said. Tomorrow, the next day, we drove without a plan. No destination. Just the road stretching ahead, windows down, wind whipping our hair, music playing softly in the background. She looked over at me once, smiling, and I caught a glimpse of the woman I had once loved, the one who had laughed with abandon, who had danced in the kitchen while the rain poured outside, who had made life feel alive. But that woman had scars now, as did I, and both of us carried the weight of betrayal like a second skin. We ended up at a quiet lakeside park, far from the city, far from everything that reminded us of what had been broken. She walked along the water's edge, bare feet skimming the grass, and I followed at a distance, letting her lead. "I'm scared," she admitted after a while, her voice barely louder than the whisper of the wind. "Scared that no matter what I do, it won't be enough. That you'll look at me one day and see only the woman who betrayed you." I stopped walking and looked at her. "That woman exists," I said quietly, "and I see her. But I also see the woman who's trying to make it right. That woman is here too." Her eyes glistened with tears she didn't try to hide. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. You already had a chance to lose me, I said softly, but right now I'm still here. And you're still here? That counts for something. We sat by the edge of the lake, watching the water ripple with the wind. She leaned slightly against me, careful, respectful, not seeking comfort but offering it, and I allowed it. Not because I had forgiven fully, not because I had forgotten, but because I was choosing to try, just as she was. Time passed slowly, each day testing the fragile truce we had established. She remained honest about her feelings, about her past actions, about the loneliness that had led her astray. Every confession, every tear, every small act of trust chipped away at the wall that had grown between us. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the space began to shrink. Then one night, as we sat on the porch watching the stars, she asked softly, "Do you still love me?" I didn't answer immediately. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of summer and earth, and for a long moment I simply listened. "I don't know," I said finally. "Not like before, not yet, but I want to. I want to try." Her hand found mine, tentative, trembling. "That's all I need," she whispered. And in that quiet moment, with the night around us and the stars above, I realized something she had thought I would never find out, but I did. And now, having found out, having faced the raw truth of betrayal, we were choosing day by day to try. To rebuild, to survive. To love cautiously, imperfectly, but genuinely. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be days of doubt, of anger, of fear. But there was also hope, a fragile, flickering hope that maybe, together, we could survive the storm she had brought into our lives. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself believe that love, even after betrayal, could find a way to endure. The following weeks were a delicate balance between trust and fear. Every gesture she made, every word she spoke, I measured. Every glance I gave, she read with careful attention, as if she feared even the smallest misstep could undo the fragile connection we were building. The house was quieter, now not empty, but cautious, subdued, as though every corner remembered the betrayal and waited for signs of further collapse. One evening, I returned home earlier than usual. The front door was slightly ajar, and a single light glowed from the kitchen. I stepped inside, tense, ready for the worst, only to find her sitting at the table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. She looked up, startled, eyes wide, and then relief softened her features. "You're home early," she said softly. "I needed to talk," I replied. My voice was calm, but beneath it simmered the unresolved anger and hurt I still carried. She nodded, setting the mug down carefully. "I'm listening," I studied her. The vulnerability in her eyes, the tension in her shoulders, the quiet determination to be honest, it was all there. She had been trying, and yet I wasn't sure if trying was enough. "Do you realize how close we came to losing everything?" I asked quietly. Her lips trembled. "I know," she whispered. "Every day I think about it. Every moment I wish I could take it back." "You can't?" I said. "And I can't forget." Her head dropped. "I don't expect you to. I want you to see that I'm trying. That I'm here. You're here," I said. "But being here isn't enough." Tears welled in her eyes. "Then tell me what is," she said, voice cracking. "Tell me what I have to do." I leaned back, folding my arms, trying to find the right words. "You need to be honest, all the time, about everything. Even when it hurts, even when it's hard, no excuses. No lies, and you have to understand that forgiveness isn't instant. It's earned piece by piece, day by day." She nodded, swallowing hard. "I can do that, I'll do that. I'll spend every moment proving it." The room fell into silence, the only sound the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant rumble of traffic outside. I watched her, saw the raw honesty in her face, and I knew she meant it. She wanted this, desperately, but whether it would be enough was still uncertain. The next few days were filled with careful actions. She left work early one day to make the house comfortable, cleaning, organizing, preparing meals without expecting praise. She sent messages during the day to check on me, small gestures of care without intruding. She shared thoughts and feelings openly without hiding behind excuses or defensiveness. And slowly the tension between us began to ease, just slightly. I found myself responding subtly with small acts of acknowledgement, nods, quiet words, moments of shared silence. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would force us to pretend everything was okay. Just a slow, cautious rebuilding. One night, she suggested we go for a walk. The sky was clouded, heavy with the promise of rain, and the air smelled of damp earth. We walked in silence at first, side by side, our steps in quiet rhythm. Finally, she spoke. "Do you think we can ever be like before?" I looked at her, the clouds above reflecting in her eyes. "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe not the same, maybe better, maybe different. But we have a choice to stay broken or to try to rebuild." She took a deep breath. "I want to rebuild," she said softly. "I'll do whatever it takes." I glanced at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself imagine a future that included her, not perfect, not without scars, but possible. The wind picked up, stirring the leaves around us. She reached for my hand tentatively. I hesitated, then took it. Not as a guarantee of trust, not as a promise of forgiveness, but as a small acknowledgement that we were both here, still standing, still trying. She thought I would never find out. But I did. And now, the truth had set the stage for something fragile and beautiful, the possibility of redemption. The chance to rebuild trust, the slow, painful journey toward a love tested by betrayal, yet still alive.